What I find really interesting about how the Bible has been set up with regard to the genealogies, for example, in Chronicles, is that even though Ephraim was the firstborn, he's not really even mentioned. Hang on one second. He's not even really mentioned until Chronicles 7. Let me just quote where it says that Ephraim was the firstborn. This is in Jeremiah. I should know this by heart, but I always have to look it up. This is the chapter of the Bible that I go back to all the time. Jeremiah 30 and Jeremiah 31. Let me go to the King James Version just because this is the version that I have. I do not swear by the King James at all. I think here a little, there a little, just like Isaiah said would apply to the different versions of the Bible that we read. You know, we should read different versions if you can read. I mentioned this a couple of years ago on my other channel, Psalm 27, because you're never really going to get to the bottom of it until you really compare what is being said and get to the bottom of what it means. Anyhow, it says, Jeremiah 31, "For there shall be a day that the watchmen upon the mount Ephraim shall cry, Arise ye, let us go up to Zion, unto the Lord our God." Number 9, "They shall come with weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn." God never changes. What he says, he knows the end from the beginning. So just because he divorced Israel, and Israel backslid, and Israel and Judah were both taken variously into captivity, that does not mean that he is not perfecting this seed, and has not perfected the seed over thousands of years, because he has. That we're talking about a physical, we are talking about a physical Israel. 18, "I have surely heard Ephraim bemoaning himself thus, Thou hast chastised me, and I was chastised as a bullock unaccustomed to the yoke." Whose yoke? Esau's yoke. "The older will, however, serve the younger." The older did serve the younger at one time. Esau broke Jacob's yoke off his neck, and now we've got the yoke on us. That means Esau's yoke on Jacob. "Turn thou me, and I shall be turned, for thou art the Lord my God. Surely after that I was turned, I repented, after that I was instructed. I smote upon my thigh, I was ashamed, yea, even confounded, because I did bear the reproach of my youth. Is Ephraim my dear son? Is he a pleasant child? For since I spake against him, I do earnestly remember him still. Therefore my bowels are troubled for him. I will surely have mercy upon him, Ephraim, saith the Lord." So this is how we know that Ephraim was the firstborn. Now we go to 1 Chronicles 7, and way down here, somewhere in the chapter, we learn about Ephraim. Who do we learn about first? In Chronicles, we learn all about Judah and his people. This is because they want you to believe that Judah is the firstborn. Judah is not the firstborn. Judah was the fourthborn out of the union between Jacob and Leah, the counterfeit wife. Judah was wicked. His first two sons were struck dead. Joseph's first two sons, we don't know if he had any after that. Maybe we do. Maybe somebody knows. I don't know. Were blessed by Jacob. And Ephraim was, the second son was put before the first. It says here, 1 Chronicles 7:20, the descendants of Ephraim, Shutelah, Bered his son, Tahat his son, Eleada his son, Tahat his son, Zabad his son, Shutelah his son, Asa and Eliad were killed by the native-born men of Gath. Who were they? Philistines, I believe. When they went down to seize their livestock, their father Ephraim mourned them many days, and his relatives came to comfort him. Then he made love to his wife again. Oh dear, I think I'm in the I'm in the NIV, I'm sorry. When I saw that term, I just realized, oops, this cannot be the King James. And she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. He named him Beriah, because there had been misfortune in his family. His daughter was Sheerah, who built lower and upper Beth Horon, as well as Uz and Sheerah. Rephan was his son, Resheph was his son, Telah his son, Tahan his son, Ladan his son, Amihud his son, Elishama his son, Nun his son, and Joshua his son. Joshua was an Ephratite. Their lands and settlements included Bethel and its surrounding villages, Naaran to the east, Gezer and its villages to the west, and Shechem and its villages all the way to Ayah and its villages. Shechem. This is a very important city or town. This is where the bones of Joseph were buried. This is where Jacob bought the land. I do believe it was a cave. And Joseph had his bones buried there, and so did Jacob, and I do believe the rest of the kings of Israel. Notice that when Judah took over the kingdom of Israel in the person of first Zimri and then Omri, Zimri may have been from Simeon, I'm not sure. It's all convoluted so that we can't really always get to the bottom of it, but I do believe Zimri was a Judahite, maybe a Simeonite, and that I'm sure that Omri was a Judahite from Judah. When they took over Israel, notice there was no longer any talk about Shechem or Bethel. It was all about Samaria. Along the borders of Manasseh were Bethshan, Tanach, Megiddo, and Dor, together with their villages. The descendants of Joseph, the son of Israel, lived in these towns. This town, Dor, is what I'm interested in. I'll try to make this short. Several years ago, when I was thinking about Mozart, I mentioned this before on my other channel, Psalm 27. I was thinking about him, and I wondered why they hate him so much, and it just occurred to me, maybe he was of the tribe of Joseph, and they knew that. You see, part of the penalty of Israel was losing his identity, which would be refound in the last days, and these are the last days here. I don't know how many days there are till the end, or how many years. I do not know. I hope not that many. 10 years ago, I didn't think it would be 2 years from then. Now I'm realizing, okay, it's going to be longer than I thought. But with this advent of this hoax virus and these lockdowns, and what they're going to do is start telling people you have to take the test, and they're going to determine who's clean and who's unclean before their man of sin comes. You know, I was really, and I thought, you know, I'm sure that Jesus must have come from the tribe of Joseph. It was just an instinct, you know, because I'd read all about Judah, and I thought it can't really be Judah, because Judah is not even Israel, and salvation is to Israel and Judah. And then I read this Dor here the other day. I was reading about Ephraim, who really should have been mentioned first, since he was the firstborn, but he wasn't. He's somewhere here in the middle. He's of the middling sort, you know. Nobody's really paying. His sons died, that's it. They lived in Dor. Good night. Anyhow, there's also this prefix Dor seems to be Hebrew, because there are quite a few prefixes with Dor, or suffixes, I should say, with Dor. Endor, for example, the witch of Endor. And then you've also got Esh, Esh this, Esh that, Eshkelon. Sometimes it's pronounced and spelled Ashkelon, but you've got very many names with E-S-C-H. And my name, my last name is Eshe Dor. And I was just thinking, I'm going to do a video on this and tell people. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting? I don't know. I don't believe that I'm from the tribe of Joseph exclusively, because I've got 20% Norwegian in me, 20% Irish. Irish is separate from British, and Irish and Welsh, and then I've got British and Scottish. So I've got and also German. But you see, the tribes of Israel were taken to Germany, which was then called Assyria. I do believe by the tribe of Dan, by their own brother. That's what I believe for different reasons. I've made several videos on this on Psalm 27. You can look for them. It all has to do with the names. What's in a name? Very much indeed. Assyria, there was a king there named Tilgat-Pilneser, and Pilsen is in Slovakia. In the Czech Republic, I'm not sure what they're calling it now. But there is a place called Plzen, and this is where I believe Tilgat-Pilneser was from, and it's just right on the border to Bavaria of Germany. So anyway, I was just realizing, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if Eshador, this to me, this is almost 100% confirmation that the name is a Hebrew name, which became German, of course, when the Hebrew tribes were taken into captivity up to Assyria. Judah was taken to Greece and then went up to become, I believe, the Orthodox people. So anyhow, and then I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if I were related to Mozart? Maybe that's where this kinship comes from. I do not know. It's just a question. It's just a question. I'm always asking lots of different questions because I'm trying to think about these things and derive the truth. And you can always find the truth in the Bible, but you really got to dig for it. So yes, I was talking about Ephraim. I think I'll end this here. And then if I need to add anything, I will. But beware of the genealogies. Really, Ephraim, like I said, should have been mentioned first because he was the firstborn, and he's always kind of put somewhere down, kind of as if to say, oh yeah, right, there was Ephraim. Ephraim still is the first son. God does not change. God does not change. He made a promise and he's going to keep it. Not all Israelites are going to be saved. There's only a remnant, a very small remnant, according to Isaiah.